Uh, I don't know about you. We've been working, and sometimes I think it's harder to work being offline. Working like this, not being in the office. I find it easier sometimes to be working in the office. Most times, as far as anything new that I've done, I've been reading probably twice as much as I normally read. So that's been fun.
That's good. Yeah, we love a good book.
Yeah, I'm reading now the Secret Life of Trees.
Okay, I haven't heard of that. What's that about?
It's actually written by a forester who
Okay.
talks about that trees actually communicate. And it's been an interest of mine for quite a while about this great organismic kind of network that goes through our soil on the whole planet and allows trees and things to communicate. It's like a fungus, but trees actually do communicate with their roots and things. It's really, I find it fascinating. It's been a fun book to read, so it's been good. Plus, also, then I get to torture Mr. Garrison and Mr. Kanaz in my spare time, so that's been fun.
No, I would echo the work environment's been a challenge. Sometimes when you're at a distance, things when you're not seeing people face to face regularly, you're doing a lot of online communication that can be time consuming. So I would think definitely the work hours did not decrease during the COVID season. They did not. If anything, they're a little more. But it's been rewarding too. I mean, it's not like it's been all negative. It's been more time. For me reading challenging articles like, how are schools perhaps going to open in the fall, or what are some theories behind, what's been happening the last few months in education. And those are mostly just publications that, you find online, or excerpts you find online, or people send you on email. In spare time, I mean, obviously, with the extracurriculars not being regular in the spring, sure, did that free up some weekend time? Absolutely. I mean, there's a few Sundays there we got to do some safe, socially distant family get-togethers that maybe wouldn't have happened, during a regular school year if things were going normal. So there's been some time for that. But no, I mean, from my perspective, from after spring break till now, it's been the regular work hours when it comes to Jesuit-related things, for sure.
Yeah, and I found working from home easier when everybody was stuck at home. And like for instance, when my family had their schoolwork to do at the same time, but in the summer when I've been at home and they don't have things to do, it's kind of hard to be the only one in the house working. I don't know how people who work from home do that. If that's like, because I have neighbors who they work from home all the time. It's just what they do. I don't know how they manage it, because it's hard to split your brain between those two realities. So I have found it much easier to do work back here on campus if my family is home not working, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we have started having opportunities to meet in person, and that's much easier at times, just to be present to each other. And for hobbies, my son and I got into mountain biking during all of this, and he's 11 and he's fearless when it comes to mountain biking. So I've been trying to keep up with him. We go to a mountain biking park in McKinney, and it's not something I ever would have guessed I'd be doing at 46 years old, getting into that, but it's been really good for me. And I've only gotten hurt a few times so far. So he's better at it than I am.
Great. Yeah.
There's a new show I watched last night called Stay Out of the Lava, I think it's called. Have you guys seen it, what I'm talking about?
No.
Anybody? You guys? First time I watched it, my daughter showed me the show. Last night was 3 teams of 3 people each. One was a team of teachers, and you got to jump on furniture in this room full of lava, which is like red jello, and you got to make it to the escape thing. And it's really fascinating, but it would appeal to, I think, Mr. Garrison very much. It's right up his alley kind of thing. And he just jumped like from this plastic couch to the bed, and the bed is spinning around, and then you got to jump to the fireplace, and it's just pretty cool. If you guys get a chance to to Google it. You should. Something's called like Stat of the Lava.
I'd find a way to get hurt probably.
Some of the teachers got pretty well beat up yesterday because they'd like jump and do a face plant on the couch and stuff. But it's obviously soft, but it's fun to watch. It really is.
Yeah. Is that on Netflix? Because I think I saw something similar. Like The Floor is Lava or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. The Floor is Lava.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks interesting. I'll have to check it out now.
I think the teachers actually won yesterday. If you get through it, you get so many points and you win $10,000 and a lava light. They're $29. So I say it's fun.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, cool. Thanks, y'all. All right. So I guess moving on, like, so during this kind of time of social distancing, all that, how have you guys managed to kind of like stay connected with family, and just like, have you guys made any new traditions that would not have been possible during the regular school time, regular summer school? Have you guys picked up any new hobbies? I know that you guys have talked about reading and that kind of stuff. Any other to mention?
I've made a point of reaching out to different people, different colleagues at work, and we arrange occasionally like to have a cup of tea in the evening together, and we're doing it online using we've been using FaceTime, but it's something I normally wouldn't do. So it's actually carving out a little bit more time to be intentionally social. Mr. Garrison he had a great comment about the continuity of community. And I think that falls to all of us to continue to do that, even if we're separated, to make sure that we keep that community connection with each other. It's a little easier here when I'm back at school in the office, but from home, I felt a little on the isolated side. So I really made a point of doing that, at least every day, reaching out to somebody or just calling a board member or calling a faculty member or a colleague that I haven't spoken to in a while, and just say, hey, how you doing, Patricio? You doing okay? What's up? What have you been doing? How's the family? Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't watch a lot of TV during the school year. Usually we're chaperoning events, especially in the springtime. And I like watching sports a lot. So a lot of college basketball, those types of things, especially baseball season would have kicked up. So all that was gone, right? I mean, you had the Jesuit athletic world that was kind of put on hold, and then you have my TV athletic world that was put on hold. Not to mention the other functions we get to do that are fun. Talking about the Jesuit end. So I kind of enjoyed the downtime and not getting online and necessarily having get-togethers. So I don't watch a lot of Netflix and Amazon Prime during the school year, but I was able to spend some evenings getting some old classic shows in that I had heard about, never watched. So that was kind of a fun downtime for me that I wouldn't normally got to do during a school year. And it was quiet. Yeah, it wasn't really shared a whole lot. I mean, I had some friends I would share stories with, like I watched the show, whatnot, and family, but it was kind of cool just to watch what I wanted to watch on my own for some time. I don't usually get to do that during the school year.
Yeah, great.
So I have a dog that when we had to stay at home, I no longer had a commute, and that's about a 30-minute commute every morning, sometimes a little more. And so what I started doing was taking the dog for a walk, and she was my commute each day. I'd do it in the morning and I'd do it at night. And that happened just about every day that we weren't here, even on weekends, the whole time. And since I've started coming back to work, the dog is very angry. And she does things now that she never did before. Like, she didn't used to mess with our shoes or anything like that, but now we have to hide our shoes from her. She actually jumped up in the bed the other day with a shoe and dropped a shoe on me, as if to say, put your shoes on, take me for a walk. But I was, so I'm trying to figure out a way now to get up earlier to still take her for the walk and still have my commute. And some days the dog wins and some days I win. So it's an interesting battle going on at my house right now.
What kind of dog is it?
She is a golden doodle.
Oh,
She's about
very fun.
35 pounds and a lot of fun, but very strong-willed and opinionated.
Yeah, that's good to know. My sister actually just recently put a deposit down on her own golden doodle. So
They're a lot of fun,
yeah,
but very smart and very strong-willed.
yeah, yeah. Like I guess into her future. Cool.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. So this next question is a little more geared to Mr. Garrison, but I'm not until I'm sure the other you and Mr. Ursing and Mr. Knies might be able to jump in. Mr. Garrison, so you went to a Catholic Principals Conference, correct?
Well, it depends. I've been to several. It depends. Like we've been the diocesan principals are meeting this afternoon. I actually have one with all the Jesuit principals at 2 today.
Okay.
So these are just ongoing. We've had meetings well, for the diocese. There were 2 a week for the entire time we were shut down.
Really?
And, yeah, and then we also do them at the province level, which is all the Jesuit schools in our province. We're doing those about once a month, and then all of the Jesuit schools in the country about every. We've had 2 or 3 of those, and we have one today.
Okay. Yeah. So could you tell us just a little bit of kind of like your experience with that? Like what are those like?
Well, it's for me, I find them very comforting because all of the things we're trying to figure out, when I go to one of these meetings, I'm reminded that they're trying to figure these things out as well. And you don't feel like you're stuck on an island trying to reinvent the wheel because you can kind of trade, trade advice with each other, trade suggestions, trade experiences. And for me, sometimes it's comforting because I find out, hey, we figured out how to solve something that other people are struggling with, and that's a good feeling. And other times it's a good feeling to find out someone else has already solved it and they can teach me what to do. So I very rarely leave those feeling bad. I always feel pretty good after those meetings. Even if I find out we're behind, I learn ways to catch up or get ahead. And a lot of times I find out, I can help other people with things that we're learning here. So it was very comforting through the whole COVID closure to be in communication with other people.
Yeah, totally. Very nice. Jason, so I think you got the next one, right? Oh, Jason, you're muted.
Sorry. Thanks for reminding me. There was actually 2 events I was actually really curious. Like, you guys did a fantastic. I mean, I went to the graduation. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come. It was fantastic. We were just really curious. Like, how did you guys come up with the plan? I mean, I think it worked out perfectly. But is there anything else like you wish you guys could have done or anything like that?
Well, I think we're at the mercy of really what was going on at the time. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that our original plans early on in the spring, we were trying to think about graduation dates were up in the air. At first, didn't look like any gatherings were going to happen for a very, very long time. Most schools were talking about an August graduation. If you remember, a lot of schools were even to the extreme of, well, maybe we'll do something at Christmas time or even the following spring when kids are back from college. It was that extreme in March and April. And there was a lot of probably more self-imposed pressure than anything for us, the group you're talking to here, that we really wanted to get something out to our seniors for 20. We thought they deserved it. We thought their families deserved it. And so we really wanted to work to get a good plan in place. And like you said, Jason, you can't just put on a graduation and turn on a light switch and there you go. It's a lot of planning. Who's going to be there? Who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to work with the facilities coordinators at the event to make sure that's going on? So kind of taking this to a long story, but basically, we had a plan to do an August graduation, and then suddenly the state came out and said, well, look, there's an opportunity for outdoor graduation or graduations at a much larger venue. We were very blessed to have been working with some people in the Dallas Cowboys organization at the time who, had kind of given us an option of using that larger stadium, AT&T, which we took them up on for that June 5th date. And there's just a lot of moving pieces. I mean, credit. I mean, I appreciate you, telling us it was well done. We appreciate that. But, hats off to the senior counseling team. Hats off to the Cowboys event staff that were there, the AT&T staff that were there that really helped us coordinate it, keep things clean, keep it safe. The physical plant, what you saw, the stage and the backdrops, working with them on the dimensions and what we needed, and they were fantastic accommodating us. So we're really grateful to that organization and that community for helping us through that. And of course, our faculty that were there, that was really cool to have them there. We weren't for sure at the time, were faculty going to be able to attend? Were family members going to be able to attend? We just weren't sure in April. And then as we got closer to May and things started to unfold with a little more clarity on how we could do this event, we were just very blessed with the venue that would provide us with all those options. So I was very pleased with it. So thanks for the compliment.
Jason, I just add to that everything that Mr. Kanai said, but also want to compliment the fact that the seniors were real cooperative and they had the right spirit of what we did, because we wouldn't have been able to do it without their spirit of cooperation. So that helped a lot. Typically, Mr. Garrison and Mr. Kanai and the senior team spend hours rehearsing it. And this was, you guys have, 2 hours from start to finish, ready, set, go. And, we wouldn't have been able to do it without the cooperation of the seniors. They did a great job.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see Mr. Garrison. I was just gonna actually, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Garrison. I'm so sorry.
Well, I was just going to echo everything they said, but an interesting piece of it, just because I don't know that the students know much about him, but Mr. Soich oversees he's the chief financial officer of the school, and just like finance and oversees financial aid and things like that. He was very helpful in us because he had to coordinate some things with the event venue, and he's the guy that if there's paperwork to be signed for the school, he oversees all of that, things like insurance. He helped us. You have to imagine all the people involved in the graduation, and then to do it in a way we've never done it before without a rehearsal, it required a lot of meetings. He set up for us a meeting twice a week, 8 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays for, I don't know, what was it, Dr. Kanai, 6 weeks, 7 weeks?
Wow.
So at the very least, we were meeting 2 or 3 hours a week in those meetings. And then there were often a lot of meetings going on outside because, just little things like who's going to bring the ferns, who's going to bring the curtain for the table or whatever. Like those are all things that when you have all day, like Mr. Urson was saying, when you have all day to plan, it's not as big a deal. But when we set that whole thing up in 30 minutes because of all the planning those people did. And I, for one, I was very grateful to all the people who got in, and a bunch of like Dr. Kanai said, counselors and stuff. They got there. We were allowed to get into that building, I think at 8 a.m. Is that right? And they just spread out like they had a plan, because they did, and everyone knew what they needed to do. And within 30 minutes, that was all set up. And I was amazed and so happy that it worked that way. Because when we started having the conversation, we're like, oh my God, how can we do that in an hour? It's impossible. And then they did it. They knocked it out in like 30 minutes. It was very cool. It was really neat to see everyone working together.
I know you guys, we're giving you a glimpse of it, but it's like, we're going to bring ferns in, and Mr. Soich, as VP of Operations, was trying to negotiate, because the contract from the Cowboys would say absolutely no ferns are allowed in the stadium. And so we'd have to negotiate what we're talking about ferns, and you guys would, oh yeah, you guys can bring it first. It literally was point by point like that. No kidding. Even to the point that, Mr. Garrison and I had to wear gloves to hand out the diplomas. What kind of gloves do we have to wear, kind of thing, or what kind of mask or temperatures. It was a lot of moving pieces. So it really was sort of took the whole Jesuit village to get it done. Not to mention, the wonderful people from the Cowboys organization that are connected with the school that helped us, the parents that were involved in that. Because we would not have been able to get it done otherwise. They actually helped us with both venues, the one that we were going to do, and then the bigger venue at AT&T.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then additionally, how did you guys orchestrate the student gift drop-offs? Because I thought that was a small but meaningful gesture. How were you able to outreach each of the teachers to each of the students, and what went into the gifts that you decided to give?
Well, let me jump on this one first, because I don't think Dr. Kanies will give himself credit for this, but we all wanted some way, excuse me, to connect with the students when we weren't together. And a lot of the conversations were just us kind of wondering, how can we do that? How can we do that? And as those conversations evolved, Dr. Kanies said, what if we do this? And kind of fed us this idea of coming up with something meaningful that could be delivered to every single student. And I think, I'll speak for some of the people that were in the room, in the team's room. Our first thought was, oh my gosh, that's a lot to do. And then it was like, oh my gosh, that's a wonderful thing to do, because Dr. Kanies figured out a way to make it happen. And, I think I'll let him take over now, but I think the idea was to give you guys a connection. We are missing you and thinking about you. But the organization behind that, Dr. Kanies set all that up, and I doubt he would tell people that. So that's why I jumped in.
Well, I appreciate that, but the broad outreach to the faculty, and without those teachers wanting to get in their cars, use their own gas, I sent out routes that were, you guys know, there's kids that go to school here from all over the place. We were driving even out towards Fort Worth, a lot of people up in Denton County, even as far as Waxahachie. I don't want to quote anyone address, but there was a lot of unselfishness on the faculty's end to say, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. The idea around the lanyards and the prayer card. Well, I think the prayer card is probably self-explanatory. If you read the prayer and you look at each class, it's kind of a prayer about the time that we were in. We're together, but we're not physically, and reminding us that God's always with us, no matter what we're going through, and we share that Jesuit cross that's on those prayer cards. The lanyards, I thought, was quite symbolic of, when you think of a lanyard, it goes with you wherever you go. You put it in your car, you take it home, you bring it to school. It's in your athletic locker. It carries your keys. You can carry your ID. So a lanyard has all these functions, and a lanyard you can take with you. It's very convenient. And so we wanted that physical reminder to the Jesuit students. Doesn't matter if you're physically on campus, you take Jesuit with you. Jesuit's with you, just like that lanyard. So you don't have to physically be in the school building to remember that you're loved, and you don't have to physically be in the school building to remember that you're responsible for sharing that love. You're responsible for, wherever you go with that lanyard, we're sharing that love with the world. So that was the idea around the lanyards and the prayer cards, and the faculty, the fact that, again, they gave up their time and left their families. A lot of these teachers had kids at home they needed to be taken care of, and they did, but they were able to balance their schedule. And I thought that was even more of a powerful thing, where, some teachers got to meet students they hadn't met before. It's for the first time they met students. I thought it was especially powerful for the incoming class of 24 to be able to meet a faculty member at their home. Don't quote me on this, but I'd like to do it again for the incoming kids. Can we do it again, even in non-COVID times? Because I just thought it was a really cool thing. If you don't know, as upperclassmen, the class of 24, they got their Jesuit class T-shirt that day. Instead of a lanyard, they got the actual class of 24 T-shirt delivered by a faculty member. So that was an added kind of bonus to let them know you're a part of this school, and there's a personal connection, not just one that's on paper or on an application. So, no, I appreciate Mr. Garrison's comments. I really do. But yeah, hats off to the faculty, staff too, and coaches. Not just faculty. We had a lot of staff members in advancement, at the front desk, in finance, coaches that also jumped on board and drove their cars and trucks around Dallas-Fort Worth to make this happen.
Just two quick things, guys. One, I just want to highlight again, too. It really was Mr. Kanies' will and desire to get this done, and his idea. So he really does deserve the credit for this. He's being very, very, kind when he doesn't give himself as much credit as he deserves. I mean, he really does. My hat's off to him, and all of our hats should be off. One thing I do want to highlight, though, is the fact that to me, it just sort of put again in the spotlight. You guys really want to be a Jesuit, and we guys really want you here at Jesuit. We love what we do, and we love working with you guys. And so it was this really, if you want to say it, an expression of love being in deeds, not just in words, about people that want to keep you connected with Jesuit, because we love what we do and we love having you guys here. And I think from your end, you guys are saying, hey, I really want to be back at school. I want to be back at Jesuit. So to me, it's a great expression of love between the two groups.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the lanyard gift, especially because I use it to take with my keys and stuff like that. So I changed mine out, and it works perfectly, especially for all the juniors who are driving. One question we had when we were discussing is we were just curious if you knew if there was any news about going in the fall, if we're going to try and keep social distancing, or if we're looking towards online school.
Who wants that one?
Yeah. Obviously, we have to follow, we're looking at everything on a daily basis, hourly basis. I mean, we really are. But I mean, our plan is to start safely, and you guys are going to be getting some more information on this, but, we're working really hard at ensuring that the school building will be the very safest possible to prevent the spread of COVID for everybody. And we're planning on having everybody here to start school is what the goal is. So we're going to do everything possibly physically that we can to put into place to make sure it's safe for everybody in our community. You guys, the faculty and staff, everybody. So that's the plan. And if we can, when it gets closer to it, we got plan B, where we'll be able to do something with a certain percentage of our students here on campus, and the rest would be, virtually, but a much more rigorous kind of virtually than we did in the spring. And if it comes to the point where we're all back, run for the hills again, then we'll figure out a way to be able to do that, robustly to everybody doing it online. So we got 3 plans in place, but, God willing, we're going to be able to have everybody together, have the family back together again, when we start school in August. That's the plan.
Yeah, and the thing I would add to that, think about it in terms of what is the goal. The goal is to continue school, of course, but the manner we want to continue it in is in a way that gives us the most possibility for time together possible. And the definition of together, 1 is in the same space together, but 2, if not in the same space, then at least together like this at the same time through, methods that work. But primary concern being together as much as possible. So we're going to try to just maximize opportunities to be present to each other and with each other. And if it did come to that thing that Mr. Urson just said, where some are here and some are not, we would do it in such a way that it alternates so nobody is away for very long. The goal is you get as much time on campus as possible, but with the start of everybody on campus all the time, if that is what the current health situation allows. And if it requires something less, then we'll do it in a way that still mandates we have time together as much as possible. Because I think that's what, not to oversimplify it, but I think that is one of the primary things that people were missing in the spring, is we are used to being together and being in a community. And when you take community out of it, it suddenly feels very disorienting. And we want to work very hard to put that back in place. Because everything else seems to fall into place when you know where you belong and who you belong with. And that's the goal, is to maintain that.
Yeah, great. I think we have one final question, and this one's gonna change the topic just slightly, over to kind of like back at summer school. And so I know you guys said that we have like various plans for fall, or like anything. Did you guys change anything up for like summer school e-learning to kind of like change it from what we did in the spring? Like, could you tell us about any like changes you made, any like new I don't know, regulations, or like just kind of like for the kids that aren't doing summer school right now? I know Jason is, but like for the rest of the students? Like, what changes do you guys implement to kind of make it a more effective e-learning or something like that, you know?
Well, so I'll start, and then Dr. Kanaz, you might have some things to add too, as you've been working with Dr. Kirby on this. But Dr. Kirby oversees the summer school program, and he worked with Mrs. O'Sullivan to review the feedback we got from students and parents. We sent out surveys, you remember, at the end of the spring semester to students and parents, and they went through those surveys to kind of see what they could learn about what worked and what didn't work. And as you can imagine, when you survey that many people, you're not going to get consensus on anything. Some people said, I like being asynchronous so I can do stuff at my own pace. And others people said, this is terrible. I don't do it if I don't have someone making me go to class every day, and I need it to be synchronous. So you kind of end up split down the middle on that. So what they did, and Jason, you can probably speak to this from experience, is part of the class is required to be together at the same time. Part of it is required you're on your own to control your time and get certain things accomplished. Like if it's reading something, we don't need to be sitting on a screen looking at each other while we're reading. We should use the screen time to interact with each other and listen to each other and speak with each other. But, in any 3-hour class or whatever a class period is in the summer, because they're longer, you don't do any one thing the whole time, and you split it up. So what Dr. Kirby did was he asked the summer school teachers to think about the day or the class period in terms of pieces, where some pieces are live and in person online, some pieces are split up into small groups, or you go do something on your own. And then generally there's some activity where you come back at the end and have some sort of closure. So it became a situation where students were responsible for being in certain places at certain times. The faculty were as well. And it addressed kind of both concerns that both sides had on that. I need some of it synchronous, some of it asynchronous. They also did things that, maybe aren't as apparent, but like little details about how you take roll online. How do you do grades online? How do you do late policies online? How do you write tests if we're not in the same room taking them? Those are things that maybe happen a little more behind the scenes, but those are things also that they adjusted. But one of the things I think we should say, because I imagine there's some concern about this, because I've had people bring me concerns, is, how come summer school was online instead of back in person, or how do you know we can start back in the fall? And the thing to remember is that in May, when decisions had to be made about summer school, schools were still closed. We weren't allowed to get people together, I think, until June. Is that right, Dr.
Yeah.
Kanaz? Yeah, we were not allowed to get people back together until June. And decisions had to be made about summer school in May when schools were still closed. So when the guidelines came out for summer school, there were some very strict, restrictive things in place because people were still kind of unsure about what would work and what wouldn't work. And so that's why we made the decision to go online with summer school, as we thought, well, we can make these changes very quickly that people have told us they need and get the ball rolling, given that we didn't know how many of you guys would be allowed to have in class at any given time or things like that. In the time that elapsed since then, the state is putting out things saying schools can be open in the fall, schools need to do the following. Well, those are things we're going to work on and get done in time for the fall. But in that little bitty 10-day window that happened at the end of May before the start of summer school, nobody had a clear picture of what that would look like and what would be allowed. And as we got closer, we realized we're either going to have to do it online or we may not be able to do it at all. So that's why they put the energy into doing it online. Does that make sense? Kind of, it's not exactly the question you asked, but there's some things that were behind the scenes going on.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in, and if there's anything else that y'all can add. Or...
Hey, Jason, did y'all have, what are you taking, government?
Yeah, I was gonna take the close up to DC government, but they're moving the trip next year.
Hey, did y'all do dress y'all did summer dress, didn't you? Dress code?
Yeah.
So that's another thing we added. I don't know that we were that stringent in the spring, right? We didn't say you to wear a tie or anything, but that's something small that's not technology related, but just the fact where we said, hey, you got to get yourself up, have some accountability of dressing like you're going to school. I think, if nothing else, parents may have appreciated that. I don't know if you guys always do, but I thought that was kind of a different
Shave.
and all that. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I feel better when I'm dressed for work, but I know it's all individual. But I knew that was something policy-wise, I think was in summer school policy, right, Jason?
Yeah, and the asynchronous, synchronous section part is also in there because there's typically like discussions at the start and then activities throughout the day.
Yeah.
What did you think about that, Jason?
I actually about the plans for summer school or just asynchronous learning in general.
Well, the summer school. What do you think about how summer school worked?
I'm actually kind of liking it because I mean I like being able to have the discussions as well, but also being able to do things at my own pace. I think that's what I really liked about the period where we were off in the last 2 months, because I was able to, I felt like less stressful because I was able to manage it at my own pace and get ahead on stuff. And I get the sense there. And plus, although we can't be together physically to have discussions, I feel like the discussions that we have really help me learn. So I think having sections of both works pretty well. And it's not like you're talking the entire time, but it's not like you're on your own the entire time.
Right. And there've been little improvements. Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but Teams just in the last few weeks has increased the number of people you can see on a screen. It's a cleaner interface than it was back in March. This is not a Microsoft commercial because everyone's doing it. Zoom has improved. Live size have improved. Even Facebook has a chat feature now, but they're putting some resource into these software packages. So, I heard recently that Teams is going to go to 49 faces on a screen within the next few weeks. It'll be very different than we experienced in March. If you do have to do something online, we can see each other and talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially, because I've had classes where it's 10 to 12 and then others where it's like 50 to 60, but we all just have our microphones on rather than having us all on video. But that's not really a problem. But yeah, I think I'm happy that a lot of these companies are making changes to better accommodate the changes that are coming on right now. So
yeah,
no doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Garrison, Mr. Ursing, Dr. Knies, we don't want to eat up too much of your time, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate y'all taking the time out to meet with us. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. And also thank you for like the effort you guys have been putting into making sure it's like a smooth transition. I know it's a very tumultuous time right now, but like you guys have made it very, very easy to kind of like move from situation to situation. So we really appreciate that. Like on behalf of the student body, it's really, we really appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks for your leadership, guys. We
We're
appreciate
looking
it.
forward to seeing you back here soon.
For sure.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Jason.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank
I'll
you.
take care. Bye, guys.